If you are over 60 and you have stood in an immigration line at an international airport in the last 2 years, there is a very strong chance the officer on the other side of that counter was going to wave you through in under 3 minutes, and the only reason it took 20 was that no one ever told you what to say. I am Maria. I worked as a customs and border officer for 19 years at 3 major international airports. And in this video, I am going to give you the exact words to say, the exact answers to prepare, and the exact documents to have in your hand, so that immigration becomes the fastest part of your entire travel day. Legally, completely, and starting with your very next international trip. Drop a comment below right now with your age and the last country you traveled to. Because what you are about to learn might mean you never dread that immigration line again. Most senior travelers believe immigration is an interrogation. You approach the counter, you hand over your passport, you wait while the officer types. You answer questions carefully, afraid of saying the wrong thing. You leave either relieved or rattled. That experience, that specific feeling of uncertainty, is something millions of senior travelers accept as the unavoidable cost of international travel. That assumption is exactly wrong, and it is costing you time, energy, and in some cases, your entire trip. Here is what no one posts on the airport's signage. There are at least 8 separate factors that determine how long your immigration interaction takes, and 6 of them are entirely within your control before you ever reach the counter. They exist in the words you choose. They exist in the document sequence you present. They exist in the body language that signals to a trained officer whether this interaction will be simple or complicated. They exist in preparation habits that take under 10 minutes the night before your flight, and that experienced international travelers do automatically. They exist in specific programs designed to reduce friction for exactly the kind of low-risk traveler that most seniors over 60 represent. 8 factors. And most senior travelers are managing 0 of them consciously. I want to tell you about a woman named Dorothy. She was 74 years old, a retired high school principal from Virginia, organized and thorough in everything she did. Dorothy had been traveling internationally once a year for 11 years to visit her daughter living abroad. And for 11 years, Dorothy had averaged 38 minutes at immigration. Not because anything was ever wrong, but because she answered every question the long way. She explained context no one had asked for. She volunteered information that opened new questions. She apologized for things that required no apology. She held her documents in a stack and searched through them under pressure. Dorothy had accepted the 38 minutes as what immigration simply took. What Dorothy did not know was that the average interaction time for a traveler with her profile, retired, single destination, return ticket confirmed, no criminal history, traveling to visit a family member, was 4 minutes and 20 seconds at that same airport. She had been spending over 5 hours per international trip on an interaction that her actual travel profile should have resolved in under 5 minutes. Nobody told her. Nobody was going to tell her. The line was working exactly as it was designed to work. Dorothy's story is not unusual. It is the norm for senior international travelers. And the reason it keeps repeating comes down to 3 things the system understands about how senior travelers approach the immigration counter. First, travelers over 60 are statistically more likely to over-explain. They were raised in a cultural moment where authority figures required deference and complete answers. An immigration officer asking, "What is the purpose of your visit?" is not asking for the full story of the trip. They are running a pattern match against the short set of expected answers. A senior traveler who says, "Well, my daughter has lived there for 6 years. She married a local man, and we try to visit once a year, although last year we couldn't because of a health issue, but this year I am feeling much better," has just created 4 new variables the officer now has to resolve. A traveler who says, "Visiting family, 2 weeks," has closed the question in 7 words. Both answers are honest. One takes 4 minutes longer. Second, Document presentation creates an immediate impression before a single word is spoken. An officer who sees a passenger approach with passport already open to the photo page, boarding pass visible, return ticket accessible, and hands relaxed, has already begun forming a low-friction assessment. An officer who watches a passenger search through a bag for 45 seconds, pull out a crumpled itinerary, and open a passport to the wrong page, has already begun forming a different one. That first impression is not reversible mid-interaction. It sets the register of every question that follows. Third, and this is the one that took me years working inside the system to fully understand. Immigration officers are not looking for reasons to detain you. They are looking for reasons to clear you. Every officer at every primary inspection booth has a throughput target. A cleared passenger moves the line. A complicated passenger stops it. When a senior traveler presents clean, complete, organized information and answers questions in short, direct, honest statements, they are doing the officer's job for them. The officer is not your adversary. They are a professional looking for the fastest path to yes. Your job is to make yes easy. Before I go further, hit that like button right now if you have ever left an immigration counter feeling like you said too much, explained too much, or handed over the wrong document at the wrong moment. It helps us reach more senior travelers who deserve to know this. And subscribe, because I share these insider tactics every single week. I want to give you the foundation before we get into the specific scripts, because the words matter, but understanding why they work is what gives you the confidence to use them calmly at a counter, under mild pressure, with a line of people behind you. Here is the core principle. Immigration officers are trained to identify anomalies. A traveler without anomalies moves through in minutes. The entire preparation system I am about to give you is designed to do one thing: remove every possible anomaly from your interaction before it starts. Not by hiding anything, not by being evasive, but by presenting your entirely legitimate travel in the clearest, most organized, most instantly readable format that a trained professional can process in under 60 seconds. The 4 words that change your immigration experience are: visiting family, 2 weeks. Not a paragraph, not an explanation, not an apology. 4 words, or the equivalent short form for your specific trip, that answer the question completely, honestly, and in a format an officer can immediately confirm and close. Every script I am about to give you follows this same principle: complete honesty, delivered in the fewest possible words, with the documents to back it up already in your hand. Use this when you are crossing an international border for the first time in several years, or you have never traveled internationally alone before. Say this: first international trip in a few years. Happy to answer anything you need. Here is why this works. Officers are trained to identify nervous behavior, and nervous behavior in the context of infrequent travel can pattern match to a concern. When you name the reason for your visible nervousness before the officer has to ask, you remove the anomaly. You also signal honesty and cooperation, 2 of the 3 things an officer needs to feel in order to move you through quickly. The third is documentation, which you will have ready because of the habits at the end of this video. A 70-year-old retired librarian named Helen from Ohio had not traveled internationally since a trip with her late husband 12 years earlier. She was visibly nervous at the counter, hands slightly shaking, answers coming slowly. She said almost exactly these words to the officer. The officer nodded, asked 2 standard questions, checked her passport, and cleared her in 3 minutes and 40 seconds. Helen told me afterward she had been dreading that moment for 6 months. The actual interaction was shorter than ordering coffee. This is one of the most common extended interactions at immigration for senior travelers, and it is almost always extended unnecessarily. Staying with family without an address creates a variable. Staying with my daughter with her address and contact number already written on a small card you hand over with your passport, closes the variable before the officer has to ask for it. Officers process dozens of travelers per hour. Every piece of information you hand them, rather than making them ask for it, reduces your interaction time by 30 to 90 seconds. Over a 7-question interaction, that is 3 to 10 minutes. A 73-year-old retired nurse named Sylvia from Georgia had been visiting her son in Europe every summer for 4 years. Every year, the address question opened a 5-minute conversation about where exactly her son lived, how long he had been there, and what he did for work. When Sylvia prepared a small card with his name, address, and phone number and presented it with her passport without being asked, the officer looked at it for 4 seconds, made a note, and cleared her. The trip that had previously cost her an average of 26 minutes at immigration took 9. Use this when you are carrying prescription medications, medical equipment, or travel with a condition that affects your mobility or appearance. Say this: I have prescription medications in my carry-on. Here is the documentation if you need it. Senior travelers carrying medications are one of the most common sources of extended immigration and customs interactions, not because of anything illegal, but because unprepared discovery of medications creates a variable the officer now has to investigate. When you declare your medications proactively, present your documentation before being asked, and phrase your offer as a cooperative question rather than a defensive statement, you convert a potential anomaly into a demonstration of transparency. Transparency is one of the fastest signals to a trained officer that an interaction can be closed quickly. A 77-year-old retired pharmacist named Constance from North Carolina carried 7 prescription medications and a portable blood pressure monitor on every international trip. She had been pulled aside for secondary inspection on 4 of her last 6 international flights because officers had discovered her medications during primary screening without context. When Constance prepared a 1-page typed list of her medications with their generic names, dosages, and prescribing physician, and presented it proactively with the exact words above, she was waived through primary inspection on her next 3 trips without a single question about her medications. She sent me a message after the 3rd trip that said, "I packed the same bag, I just changed the words." Use this when you are a frequent international traveler and you are enrolled in Global Entry, a trusted traveler program, or your country's equivalent. Can you confirm whether my trusted traveler number is attached to this booking? I want to make sure it shows correctly before I reach the inspection booth. Say this to an airline agent or customer service representative before you reach immigration, ideally at check-in or in the departure lounge. Here is what most senior international travelers do not know. Global Entry and equivalent programs do not activate automatically at every crossing. Your known traveler number must be correctly attached to your booking. Your passport number on file must match exactly, and in some cases, your enrollment must be renewed if more than 5 years have passed. A senior traveler who is technically enrolled but whose number is not attached to the booking will be routed to standard primary inspection and will have no idea why. A 68-year-old retired engineer named Francis from Michigan had enrolled in Global Entry 3 years earlier, after a particularly long immigration experience coming home from Portugal. She had used the Global Entry kiosk exactly once. On every subsequent international trip, she had been routed to standard inspection without understanding the reason. When she asked this question at check-in before a trip to Mexico City, the agent found that her passport had been reissued since enrollment, and the new number had never been updated in the system. The agent updated it in 90 seconds. Francis used the Global Entry kiosk for the first time in 3 years on that trip and was through immigration in 4 minutes. Use this when an officer asks a question you genuinely do not know the complete answer to, a hotel name you cannot recall, an exact departure date that requires checking your phone, or a contact number you have written down but not memorized. I have that written down. May I check my travel folder for 1 moment? This is one of the most powerful phrases in this entire video, and it is also the simplest. Officers are not expecting you to have everything memorized. They are expecting you to have everything organized. A senior traveler who pauses, looks uncertain, and tries to reconstruct information from memory creates visible hesitation that an officer has to assess. A senior traveler who calmly produces a travel folder and locates the specific information in under 15 seconds signals organization, preparation, and honesty. The hesitation is not suspicious. The disorganized search is. The calm retrieval is not. A 71-year-old retired social worker named Marlene from Tennessee had been traveling to visit her sister in Canada twice a year. She frequently forgot the exact address of her sister's home under the mild pressure of the immigration counter. Every time she said, "I don't remember the exact address," she watched the officer's manner shift slightly. When Marlene prepared a one-page travel summary, hotel or host address, return flight number and date, emergency contact, and trip purpose in 2 sentences, and produced it calmly when asked, the officer looked at it for 8 seconds and cleared her. Marlene told her travel group the following month that she had spent 6 years being afraid of a question that had a 14-word answer printed on a single page. Use this when you are re-entering your home country after an international trip and you are carrying purchases, gifts, or items you are uncertain about declaring. I want to make sure I declare correctly. I have gifts for family totaling approximately dollar amount. Is there a form I should complete now? The single most common source of extended customs and immigration interactions for returning senior travelers is not dishonesty. It is uncertainty about what requires declaration. An officer who sees a returning traveler with shopping bags and no completed declaration form begins an interaction at a slight disadvantage. They have to establish what was purchased, where, and for how much before they can close the interaction. A traveler who approaches with a completed declaration form and a proactive statement that demonstrates they have already attempted accurate compliance signals exactly the kind of low-risk profile that officers clear immediately. You are not volunteering to pay more duty. You are demonstrating that you understand and respect the process. That demonstration moves you through faster than almost any other signal. A 75-year-old retired teacher named Audrey from Florida had returned from a 10-day trip through Scotland and Ireland with gifts for her 7 grandchildren. She had not completed her customs declaration form because she was uncertain what counted and did not want to make a mistake. The uncertainty created a 15-minute secondary inspection. When Audrey took her next international trip to Italy, she completed her declaration form on the plane, totaled her purchases to the best of her ability, and used these words when she approached the customs officer. He looked at her form, confirmed the amount was under the duty-free threshold, and cleared her in 2 minutes. Audrey said the difference was not the amount she had purchased. It was that she had shown her work. Use this when none of the above categories apply, and you are standing at the counter, and the interaction is going longer than expected. I want to make sure I give you exactly what you need. What specific information would be most helpful right now? I know this one feels unusual. It is the only script in this video that hands control of the conversation to the officer. And that is precisely why it works. When an immigration interaction extends beyond 3 or 4 questions, it is almost always because the officer has a specific variable they are trying to resolve, and the traveler keeps providing information that does not resolve it. This question stops the cycle. It tells the officer, I am cooperative, I am organized, and I would rather answer your actual question than keep guessing at what it is. In 19 years, I watched this kind of direct, quiet deference close extended interactions faster than any other single technique. A 79-year-old retired postal worker named Beatrice from Alabama had an extended immigration interaction on a return trip from the Dominican Republic that had stretched past 12 minutes. The officer had been asking a series of questions about her travel companions, and Beatrice had been answering each one fully, without understanding what the officer was actually trying to confirm. When Beatrice finally said a version of these words, the officer paused, then asked one direct question about a companion's name. Beatrice answered it in 4 words. The officer made a note and cleared her in 30 seconds. The question that ended the interaction had been available for 11 minutes. Nobody had asked for it directly until Beatrice did. Let me be honest with you about something. These scripts work the vast majority of the time. They do not work every time. Officers have bad days. Systems go down. Profiles get flagged for reasons entirely unrelated to anything you have done. Here is what to do when the interaction goes to secondary inspection anyway. Step 1 is to stay completely calm and cooperative. Secondary inspection is not an accusation. It is an additional review that happens to roughly 1 in every 40 international travelers for entirely routine reasons. Ask calmly, is there specific documentation I can provide that would be helpful? Officers conducting secondary reviews are looking for the same thing as primary officers, a reason to clear you. Cooperation and organization are still your fastest tools.